So let's say that one day you look out your window and you see a huge snow mountain right outside. And so you decide to go get your cotton gloves on and some friends to go out and explore. So as you're climbing up the mountain, you want to take a picture of your friends. So you want to get on your phone and on the camera. However, you're immediately faced with a bit of a problem: the passcode screen. If anyone's ever tried using their phone before with cotton gloves on, you might know that it's a bit of a pain to get your phone to register where you're touching on the screen. So you end up having to take off your gloves just to get onto your phone. But why is this? Why are our phones so great at detecting our touch with just our finger, but not when we have these cotton gloves on? Hi, my name is Piero Rodrique, and today we're going to be exploring just exactly how your phone's touchscreen works, and why, for the most part, we need to take off our cotton gloves before using it. We'll also take a look at just a little bit of how multi-touch works on your phone. And so, really underneath your screen are thousands of tiny electric fields, which, in simple terms, are just regions that surround positive and negative charges. When our phone interacts with the screen, we're actually interacting with those electric fields behind the screen. And your phone, by scanning these changes in electric fields, is going to be able to pick up where exactly your finger is located. So before we get into that, let's do a little bit of physics review. So on the screen is a positive charge, and surrounding it is an electric field that is invisible to the human eye. If we bring in a negative charge from the right, then the two electric fields from these two charges are going to interact with each other and form a new electric field between them that looks a little something like this. This just tells us that a positive charge placed in the middle is going to get repelled away from the left side, but attracted toward the negative charge on the right side. Now, this is used in a device called a capacitor. All we really need to know about capacitors is that it's a device that stores charge and an electric field. And so if we store or if we hook up this capacitor to a battery, the positive terminal is going to suck electrons out from the left side, leaving this metal plate positively charged and the right plate negatively charged. Just like the charges that we saw on the previous slide, there's going to be an electric field flowing between them that looks a little something like that. And so now let's take a look at how your phone takes advantage of a capacitor for its touchscreen display. On the screen is a picture of a puppy on a phone. Now, behind our screen is really an entire grid of extremely hair-thin wires intersecting at many, many locations around. And so the negative terminal of your phone's battery is connected to all of these horizontal wires, while the positive terminal of your phone's battery is connected to all of these vertical wires like this. So now that we have our grid, let's say that we decide to touch our phone at this location. Now, what would be great is if our phone could pinpoint the row and column of our touch so that it can pinpoint exactly where our finger is on the screen, like this. And in essence, this is really what's kind of going on. So let's zoom in to see exactly how this happens. So the great thing about our finger and really our entire body is that it has a natural capacitance. What this means is that we store charges all around us. So our finger here really looks a little something more like this, where the salts in our skin produce charges of varying magnitudes, positive and negative values. And it's these charges that are going to actually interact with the screen once we come into contact to it. So if we zoom into an intersection point like this, the positive red wire intersects with a negative blue wire underneath it. And just like since there's a difference of charges, like we saw with a capacitor, there's going to be an electric field that flows between them and surrounds the intersection. Now, if we bring in our finger close to this intersection, the positive red wire, since it's on top, is going to repel away positive charges in our finger and attract negative charges in our finger. So now the charge distribution in our finger looks more like this, where there's now a more negative charges closer to the positive red wire than there were before. So this means that there's going to be a change in electric field because now there's more negative charges closer than there were before. And this change in electric field may be small, but this is exactly how your phone is going to be able to detect which two wires out of this entire array in the grid of your phone screen have been affected to pick up just exactly where your finger is touching or in which intersection it's going on. Now this is great, but we run into another problem with this: multi-touch detection. So let's say that we decide to touch our phone at these two locations. Like we just saw, the phone is going to be able to detect changes in electric fields for 4 wires, namely these 4 right here. But that's the problem. It only knows that these 4 wires now have different electric fields than they just did. But it doesn't know which 4 of these intersections your fingers could be at. And so as you can imagine, this would make for an extremely glitchy device, as we might be touching the screen at 2 locations and it might be registering 2 more. And that would just not be a very good device to work with. Now, luckily, engineers are pretty smart about how they take their measurements. So they use fast scanning. All fast scanning is a simple linear scan across the screen of each single column, and looks a little something like this. Now, this animation is pretty slow, but in reality, each column is being scanned at about 10 microseconds per wire. And so once we scan here, we're eventually going to reach this wire here, and the phone is going to scan across the entire vertical wire from bottom to top, looking for exactly where the change in electric field is occurring along it. So if we look here, we're going to scan from bottom and going to reach this point right here where we found a change in electric field. Then we'll continue scanning above and find nothing, that everything's normal. So then we're going to keep going across the columns and reach eventually this one right here. Once again, we scan all the way up and find that we have intersected the grid here. And then we'll scan that last little part above it and find that there's nothing there. So now we've successfully been able to pinpoint just exactly where our 2 finger touches on the screen are located at. So now that we've gone over this, hopefully it's going to be a little simpler to see why we need to take off our cotton gloves before using our phone and putting in our passcode. You see, cotton is an insulator. This means that it doesn't allow charges to move as freely as it would if we didn't have this cotton glove on. And so if we were to approach this intersection with our cotton gloves on, the charges wouldn't move as easily as they would have done without it. And so the charge distribution might still be a little random, and therefore this electric field that we were detecting a change in last time won't be there. And now your phone won't be able to detect that change in electric field and won't be able to detect where your finger is or if it's even touching the screen. And so now knowing this, we simply take off our cotton gloves for a little bit, put in our passcode, and snap that picture of our friends for the memories. Thank you so much.